Hi, welcome to my video on primary trig ratios of an angle, part 2. Which trig ratios can you use to find x, sine, cos, or tan? And to do that, we have a statement, soc, ca, to, sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cos is adjacent over hypotenuse, tan is opposite over SNO, opposite over adjacent. So, in relation to this angle 40, this is the hypotenuse, this is opposite, and this is adjacent. So to find x in relation to the sides, I'm using adjacent over hypotenuse, and adjacent over hypotenuse is cos. I would use cos to find x. And this is the angle 21. This is the hypotenuse. This is opposite. X is opposite. And 92 is adjacent. So I'm using to get, I'm not using hypotenuse, opposite and adjacent, opposite over adjacent, and opposite over adjacent would be tan. And we have an angle right here, 4 degrees, and we're going to use this angle. This is the hypotenuse, and this is opposite. Adjacent is here, we're not going to use it. So that would be opposite over hypotenuse, hypotenuse and opposite, and opposite over hypotenuse would be sine. D is the 80-degree angle. So this is the hypotenuse, this is opposite, this is the adjacent. We're not using hypotenuse, so we're using opposite over adjacent, and opposite over adjacent, I would use tan. 11-degree angle. This side right here is the hypotenuse, and this side here is opposite. So to use the 11-degree angle to find x, I would use opposite over hypotenuse, and that would be sine. And F, 31-degree angle. This is the hypotenuse. This is opposite in relation to the 31-degree angle. This is the adjacent. And we're not using hypotenuse, so we're using opposite over adjacent. And the opposite over adjacent is tan. So, I provide you with some practice now. Find the trig ratio to find the value of x. So this is the angle. That's opposite. This is adjacent. This is hypotenuse. So, adjacent over hypotenuse. And again, Sochatoa, S-O-H-C-A-H-T-O-A. Adjacent over hypotenuse is cos. And I have a 70-degree angle. This side right here is opposite. This side is adjacent. And I'm not using hypotenuse. I got opposite over adjacent, and that would be opposite over adjacent is tan. This is the angle. This side here is opposite. This is the hypotenuse. And so opposite over hypotenuse at C would be sine, would be the ratio I'm going to use to find the value of x with the angle 6. Number 4, I have angle 14. Across from here is opposite. 94 is adjacent. Hypotenuse is not in it, so opposite over adjacent would be, opposite over adjacent is tan. Would be the trig ratio I use. And we have 37-degree angles. Opposite is not being used. The hypotenuse is going to be. And the adjacent. So adjacent over hypotenuse, adjacent over hypotenuse, we use the cos ratio. I got a 62-degree angle here. So this is the hypotenuse. This is opposite. Adjacent is not going to be used, so it would be opposite over hypotenuse. and the opposite over hypotenuse would be sine. So just practice how to identify what trig ratio to use in relation to the two sides. Okay, let's work out some problems. Find the value of x in each triangle to the nearest tenth. So again, we got to use SOHCAHTOA, S-O-H-C-A-H-T-O-A. And here's a triangle. I want to work out the value of x to the nearest tenth. So there's the 40-degree angle. So this side right here is opposite. This side right here is adjacent. So that means I'm going to use the tan. Tan is opposite over adjacent. So that means the tan of 40 degrees, tan is opposite over adjacent. So the tan of 40 would be x over 17. Now, what we do, we're going to solve this equation. So I put 10 over 1, and I cross multiply. 1 times x is x, and 17, 10, 40. 17 times 10, 40. And I take my calculator, which I have right here, and we turn it on, and I'm going to work out 17, 10, 40. And that gives us, and to the nearest tenth, so 14.2 is in the tenth place, so that's greater than 5, so that's 14.3. And let's continue. Number 2, we want to find x in relation to 81. So in relation to 81, that's opposite. This side here is adjacent. This side here is hypotenuse. So that means we're going to use adjacent over hypotenuse, and adjacent over hypotenuse is cos. So cos of the angle, which is 81 degrees, adjacent, which is x over 42. You put over 1, cross multiply. 1 times x is x, and you get 42 cos 81. So let's put the calculator here, clear that. So 42 cos 81 is, we have x to be equal to 6 point to the nearest tenth. That's the 10th place. The 5 is in the 10th place. This number is 5 or greater, so we add 1 to the 5 to get a 6 to round it off. Okay, let's slide this out now and work on the next one. We keep our calculator here in front of us. So there's the 31-degree angle, so this side is opposite. This side is hypotenuse. The adjacent is not in this problem, so opposite over hypotenuse. So we got to have an opposite over hypotenuse, or adjacent over hypotenuse, or opposite over adjacent. So we have opposite over hypotenuse, so that means we're going to use sine. So the sine of the angle, which is 31 degrees, is equal to opposite, which is 64.2 over the hypotenuse x. And notice now, we put it over 1. So when we cross multiply here, we're going to have to divide. So let's change it around. So remember the shortcut? We can say x is equal to, so put, this is 64.2 divided by the sine of 31 degrees. Again, you take the x and multiply by this, but then you turn around and divide by sine 31. So switch the x up to here, move the sine 31 down to here, because you're still going to get that product. And that's a quick way of doing it. So we clear the calculator, and we have 64.2 divided by division sine 31. So sine 31 degrees, and we get 124.8 6 is in the tens place. This is 5 or greater, so we add 1 to the 6 to get a 7. Remember, I have to round it off to tens place. Okay, let's slide this up again and deal with this one. Keep the calculator where it is, clear it. Now we have 64-degree angle, so this is opposite side. And this is the adjacent side. Hypotenuse is not in it, so the ratio is opposite over adjacent. And opposite over adjacent, that means we're going to use the tan ratio. Tan of 64 degrees. The tan of 64 degrees is opposite, which is 212, over the adjacent, which is x. And you can see that we have, again, put it over 1. When we cross multiply, it's not like this. When we cross multiply this one, we get an x equals 42 cos 81. But because we can't get the x, so x is equal to, that's 214 divided by the tan of 64. And if you want, I can cross multiply here just to show you, make sure that when I cross multiply, I get x tan 64 equals 214. So x times tan 64 equals 214. Then I turn around and divide by tan 64 on each side. They cancel out, so you can see that I got x is equal to 214 divided by the tan of 64. So 214 division tan 64 degrees, and I get x is 104. This is the tenth place. The 3 is in the tenth place. This is 5 or greater, so I add 1 to the 3. Make it a 4. And what we have that sheet completed. Let's continue with the other sheet. So that's pretty basic in the sense of how to work these out. You write down your trig ratio and work it through. Remember, practice, practice, practice makes perfect. And let's do this. Practice means pause your video and work your TDs out. Do the first one and correct it, see if you're right. So pause the video, work this one out, and press play and see if you're right. So keep going like that, and that ensures if you're doing okay and you know what you're doing. Here we go. We want to find the value of x to the nearest tenth again. So here's the angle. This is opposite. X is adjacent. And 35 is hypotenuse. So we have, let's write down Sohcahtoa. Sohcahtoa. Always write it down at the top of the page when you're doing trig. So we have adjacent and hypotenuse. Adjacent, hypotenuse. There it is. So we're using cos. So the cos of the angle, 56 degrees, is adjacent, which is x over 35. Put it over 1, and 1 times x is x, and we get 35 cos 56 degrees. And 35, okay, use the calculator, 35 cos, I could go times now, but I don't have to, but I'll just do it. 35 times cos 56. Again, it's your choice if you want to put a multiplication or just continue it. And so it's to the nearest tenth, so it's 19 point. The 5 is in the 10th place. This number is greater than 5 or greater, so you add 1 to the 5 to make 6. Okay, move it up. I'm going to deal with the next one now. Here we go. Second one. We have a 40-degree angle, so this side is opposite. This side is adjacent. I go to spell adjacent. Sometimes I forget how to spell it. It's crazy of all these years. And the hypotenuse is not in play. So we have opposite over adjacent. So we have opposite over adjacent. So that means we're doing the tan. So the tan of the 40-degree angle is opposite, which is 47.3 over x. And we put it over 1. Notice we don't, when we cross multiply, we don't get x. So that means x is going to be 47.3 divided by the tan of 40 degrees. So x is 47.3, 47.3 division tan of 40 degrees. And so we get a 56 point. So the 3 is in the 10th place. This number is 5 or greater, so we add 1 to the 3 to make it a 4. And let's push this up and work on the next one. Here we go. So we have this angle. So this side is opposite. This side I'm going to use as hypotenuse. Adjacent is not in this. This is opposite over hypotenuse. So that's opposite over hypotenuse. And opposite over hypotenuse is sine. So the sine of angle 12 is opposite, which is 400 over adjacent. 400 over hypotenuse. Opposite over hypotenuse is 400 over x. And put it over 1. We can't get it by cross multiplying x right away, so x is going to equal 400 divided by the sine of angle 12. So 400 division sine of 12 degrees. And we have 1923.8 is in the 10th place. So therefore we have 9 is greater than 5, 5 or greater, so we add 1 to the 8 to make it a 9. Push that one up and do the next one. There we go. And we have a 66 degree angle. We want to find x in relation to the angle. So this side is opposite. This side is adjacent. The hypotenuse is not involved in this. So this is opposite and adjacent. So opposite is over adjacent. And opposite over adjacent is tan. So the tan of the angle 66. So tan is opposite, which is x, over adjacent, which is 24.2. And you put it over 1, and you notice this time 1 times x is x. So we got 24.2 tan 66. So 24.2 tan 66. I could do a multiplication, or I could just say tan 66 right away. Again, I could add press the multiplication sign and had it in between here, but I didn't. I'm just giving you different options to make sure. So this becomes 54, and the 3 is in the 10th place, so this is 5 or greater, so we add 1 to the 3 to make it a 4. And that's working through solving the triangles. Very important to know how to set up these triangles to find the value of x. Notice x is a side all the time. So there's 2 options when you're working this. Either x is on top in this ratio. If it is, it's just a straightforward x equals 35 times cos 65. But if x is not on the top, like here, then you're going to, instead of multiplying like here, you're dividing 47.3 by the tan of 40. Just a quick way to do it without having to go through every step. If you like my video, click on the like button, click on the subscribe button, click on the notification bell. Visit my math website, mathfullyexplained.com, to find more information about me, videos, and content. And that's the content that's on my YouTube channel, Math Fully Explained. Thank you for viewing my video. Bye-bye.